Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com, and in this video we're looking at the new case size of the Seiko Speedtimers. They're very versatile chronograph watches under $1,000. So in this video and on this channel we cover watches available for purchase on our website, TeddyBaldassarre.com, as an authorized dealer. So in this video, deep dive on these timepieces, final points of consideration at the end, but also throughout the video if you have further questions or are looking to buy the watch, a link will be in the description down below to the product page. But guys, without further ado, let's jump into the video and take a closer look at this watch. Now, when many people think of the storied history within Seiko's collection, chronographs are often overlooked when compared to the brand's impressive collection of diving and field watches. This is especially intriguing when you consider that Seiko was among the first brands to release an automatic chronograph caliber with the original 6139 in 1969, alongside brands like Zenith, Heuer, and Breitling, just to name a few. Back in 2021, Seiko brought chronographs back into the heart of the modern prospects collection, with the release of the quartz-powered chronograph drawing inspiration from the original Speedtimer models with a more modern design format and movement to match. The watch quickly became a standout in the sub-$1,000 category for its great mass-appealing looks, while getting a reliable quartz chronograph movement on the inside to allow it to be seated well under $1,000. Yet with the 39mm case size that I would say wears either true to size or slightly smaller, you're dealing with a watch that could be too small for those out there. So to follow up, Seiko decided to unveil a new case profile style for this Speedtimer collection, being available in a variety of different colors, and on display here we have a few different ones. A white and black Panda dial SSC 911, a blue and red bezel Pepsi option for the SSC 913, and a black dial Coke bezel, the SSC 915, all for around $700. And in this video, we take a closer look. So now let's start with the most significant change when it comes to this new model family, and that is going to be the wearing experience. The one point to mention right at the beginning is they are relatively similar in terms of their lug-to-lug dimension thickness. The big change here is going to be that 41.5mm diameter compared to the 39mm diameter of the previous. Given how the bezel, the structure of the case is going to be generally the same, the top to bottom length of the case is not going to create any additional overhang. What this is really correcting is creating more of a visual presence going across the wrist from east to west rather than north to south. And for those that wanted something with a bit more presence without having any risk of overhang, this is going to be the model to go for those that were on the fence about the previous family. When it comes to the overall case finish and architecture, the Speedtimer is relatively straightforward with fine circular brushing on the case tops and polishing on the vertical case sides without any sign of a facet or bevel to separate the surfaces. At 3, we have a prominent 6.8mm push-pull crown with large ridges for easy and secure grip, with the ornate circular ring dressing up the unsigned flat surface. On both sides of the crown sit 2 brush pump style pushers, which function well in practice yet lack the typical tactile feedback you'll experience from more premium mechanical calibers. Set between odd number 21mm lugs sits a traditional 3-link bracelet with brushed top and bottom surfaces contrasted by polished sides. The bracelet allows for adjustment using a pin and collar system and tapers down to 18mm, terminating at an abbreviated clasp pairing stamped and milled components. What may prove to be challenging in finding the perfect fit stems from there only being 2 points of micro adjustment in the clasp and the lack of half links. Typically, Seiko does leave a bit to be desired in their OEM bracelets, but this one is perfectly adequate for the price range and should work well for most owners as something that you should keep in your rotation. Turning the Speedtimers over, we have a stainless steel screw down case back with a flat profile, which won't add any additional presence to the case when strapped to the wrist, while helping to achieve a water resistance rating of 100 meters, very solid for a chronograph. Moving towards the front of the watch, a slightly domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating performed surprisingly well, aiding in legibility even in brightly lit situations. Now, surrounding the dial, we have a thick bezel set with a 2-tone aluminum insert, sporting markings used for a tachometer functionality and finished in a semi-matte coloring. Compared to the smaller Speedtimer, this bezel feels more vintage in its execution, while also taking a step farther from the Daytona comparison, in my opinion. Set within a simple chapter ring, the dial's primary surface offers applied fast faceted and polished indices, indicating the hours while being interrupted at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions by prominent sub-registers, which are actually transparent and serve as the cells for this watch's solar-powered caliber. In a somewhat unconventional move, the 3 o'clock register serves as a 24-hour scale tied to the general timekeeping as opposed to the chronograph, while the 9 o'clock subdial acts as a straightforward running 60 seconds. At 6, the final sub-register acts as a 60-minute register tied to the chronograph function, but also pulls dual duty as a power reserve indicator when the chronograph function is not running. This works by jumping the small red sub-register hand to the 0 position when the chronograph is started, and then jumping back to the appropriate position between E and F to indicate the remaining power when the chronograph is reset, similar to the appearance on a vehicle's fuel gauge. At its center, the dial sets the backdrop for large, tapered, and polished baton hands, more closely resembling the original Speedtimer model, with a strip of lume down the center. Now, like the smaller Speedtimer, this model tucks its date indication in a more polarizing position at 4:30. The lume on this dial is upgrading slightly from the smaller sibling thanks to the hour indices and also having just more visual real estate to occupy that lume. And being a Seiko, the lume shines brightly, allowing for improved legibility in low light situations. At its core, the V192 inside the Solar Speedtimer is a chronograph capable of tracking 60 minutes to 1/5 of a second level of accuracy, indicated by the 5 small jumps the chronograph hand makes every single second, imitating vintage chronograph sweeps of 18,000 vibrations per hour. Powered by either artificial indoor light or natural outdoor lighting, the V192 can run as normal for 6 months once fully charged, taking only 5 hours of bright sunlight to achieve that full charge. With that power reserve indicator at 6, you will always have a good sense of this, and in the rare instance power is low, you will be reminded to pull the watch into light thanks to the 2-second jump in the hand indicating the caliber is on low juice. For those concerned about alignment on these hands, the position of both the center chronograph seconds as well as the 60-minute register hand can both be finely regulated by a specific series of button pushes, a nice feature to have. And in terms of accuracy, this movement quotes plus or minus 15 seconds per month or a half a second per day, right in line with what you'd expect from a relatively standard quartz caliber, but typically you will find these outperforming that metric. And in tandem with that is going to have a smoother sweep that so many people like to see with mechanical watches. So now to unpack, let's talk a bit more about these new Speedtimers. So let's discuss first some of the cons. We'll shift into the pros. I think number one, that's going to be polarizing. Now, this is not as much of a big deal for me, but I know this is a touchy subject for many, which is the 4:30 date window. I'll just leave it at that. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But then we shift into some of the other points. I think one of the aspects of this watch is the size, yes, is going to be larger, but does it give a sense of feeling larger on wrist compared to the previous model? Yes, it is a larger watch, but it doesn't really wear that much larger than the previous version, or at least not as much as it might appear to be when you look at the spec sheet and see 41.5 millimeters compared to 39 millimeters. I would say it doesn't wear as large as what that case size is going to indicate, and for those with larger wrists hoping to get into a chronograph from Seiko, that could be a bummer. And then in addition, the styling here is more of a reinterpretation of the past rather than being directly on the nose of former chronograph models from Seiko and the Speedtimer family. So for those that want that reinterpretation and look to the past without having to buy a vintage model, you're not going to perfectly get that here. And the last point I'd mention here for more of a negative stance would be the odd number lug width paired with the lack of micro adjustment to the same degree that you typically associate with Seiko, with only having 2 points of micro adjustment in this clasp. But now shifting over to the pros, I think one thing we have to mention here at the beginning is despite this maybe not being enough of a size up for some, this is a great case size. I don't want this to get lost for some people. I think what was really apparent with that 39 millimeter case size is that wore like a 38 to 39 millimeter on wrist. Here you're dealing with something that is more in that 40.5 to 41 millimeter range, if not maybe even smaller. For those that are looking for more of that contemporary chronograph size, I think this is a great one to go for without having to have any concern of that lug to lug dimension. Now, the quartz accuracy with the mechanical sweep is also very cool. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Also, you're getting solar power here to go along with it, so you're not having the battery changes that you'll typically have to deal with more frequently than you will with a solar powered movement, which is going to be able to charge itself until you have to eventually change that solar cell. 100 meters of water resistance, very solid. The AR coating on these is surprisingly good. With these feel slightly more retro compared to the previous 39 millimeter case sizes, and the lume phenomenal as always. And in terms of where this watch really represents, I think, great value is with its pricing and positioning. These are on a short list of some of the best chronographs under $1,000, as there are not many mechanical, or really no true mechanical Swiss-made chronographs under $1,000. It's slim pickings for those that have a budget in this price range for under $1,000 and want a legit, credible chronograph that they can go for. This is on that short list next to things like the Bull of a Lunar Pilot, but where the Bull of a Lunar Pilot really represents that larger wrist size, this is filling the void on the other end. While combining the elements of mechanical looks from the outside with the peace of mind that comes with solar powered, with quartz oscillation to go along with it. And on a short list of recommendations for maybe one of the best watches in the price category. All right, guys, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That really does help out the content and the channel. Also, in addition to that, if you are in the market for this watch, it is available on TeddyBaldassarre.com. TeddyBaldassarre.com is an authorized dealer of over 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. How we're also able to fund all of our video production and all of our content covering watches across the industry is through selling watches. So if you are in the market for a watch, we'd love to have your business because it allows us to keep doing what we're doing, and we love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.